Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new to this channel, I'm Justin and thank you for tuning in. What you can expect from this channel is anything awesome from engraving things with a Dremel. Things such as flasks, oil catch cans, portraits, derby covers, engine casings, rims, you name it, whatever you can get your hands on that we can engrave with a Dremel. I'll show you how to do it, and all the way through to building awesome looking trucks, taking them on adventures and having a damn good time. In today's particular episode, we're going to be concentrating on transferring an image from the internet that you printed out onto a material such as an aluminium sheet, which we're going to be doing today. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Righty, to get you started on this project, what you're going to need is some aluminium sheet or whatever material you'd like to use. So in this particular case, we've got black anodized aluminium. If you're in the UK or the US, this is readily available on eBay. You can get them pre-cut to different sizes. Or if you don't have that available to you, just get a normal piece of aluminium and just spray it black, or whatever color you prefer. And then secondly, we've got tattoo transfer paper. Now this is one of those things that you can either get some bad stuff or you can get some pretty decent stuff, so make sure it's tattoo transfer paper. The reason being is it has a really good ink sheet, and that's what we're aiming for. So you have this protective layer which will strip off. Once you strip off the protective layer, it'll drop the ink sheet out, which I've already pre-done for you. So we'll need this little bad boy. Kind of lay that in place. You're going to need some sellotape, and then get your image that you want to draw transfer onto your aluminium. Get that ready. So what we're going to do first is stick this down. So get it generally how you want it on there, so it covers the majority of your workspace. And what we're going to do is just stick this down. And just check that it is all straight on your workpiece, that it covers everything. Okay, that's good. And then what we're going to do is line this image up where we want it, and what you want to feel is the edges around your plate and see how that lines up with your image that you want to transfer. Once you kind of got it in that position, again, get some more sellotape, because you don't want anything to move while you're doing this, because otherwise you're going to have to like go back and retrace a few things, and you don't want to be doing that. You want to keep this thing as simple as possible. Okay, so once everything's stuck down and you're happy with that, just get everything moved out of the way. Get yourself a decent pencil. So I like to use these jumbo pencils. They really have a nice thick line to them, or you can use your normal HB pencils. It's up to you, personal preference. And what we're going to do now is physically just trace the image as you see it here. And what that will do is transfer that pressure onto this ink paper, and that'll transfer the ink from the paper onto your material. So what you'll find is if you've got a decent ink transfer paper, it will leave ink residue onto your aluminium sheet, and basically it won't be able to be rubbed off with a finger, which is great. That's what you want. However, carbon paper is slightly different. It works on exactly the same principles, however it leaves a carbon residue which is similar to like charcoal, but that just rubs off easily, and it's, in my opinion, is an utter waste of time, especially if you want to do this. Okay, so once you're ready, just start tracing, and then away you go. Alrighty, now that you've got to this stage, you've basically traced your whole image. You've done that. just make sure you put loads of pressure down on the lines. So you want to be engraving all the black lines, getting that all done, and just getting a perspective of what you're going to be engraving. So you know, the shading in these areas, don't forget those. So yeah, just touch over those areas. So when it comes to engraving and adding all the color, there's various different techniques we can use for the color. So generally it's just going to be a silver background, but there's very useful little tips and tricks to get different textures and different colors out of just a silver background, and kind of trick the eye in thinking that there's different colors in those particular areas, which will give accents to different areas. So okay, so now that you've done that, as you're going, just open the page, just make sure everything's transferring through okay, and then what you'll find is when you lift this up it'll leave down a residue of ink on your material. So you probably can't see it in the camera right now. Let me just turn this light on, and then you should see the image coming through in the camera there, ever so faintly. See the face. There we go, starting to pick it up. That's good. Okay, so this will give you a good way of getting the image onto your material. Once it's here, the great thing about this material or this transfer paper, it's ink, so it doesn't rub off very easily. So the next thing to do is just to sharpen these lines up. Go over with a sharp pencil, and just all you're doing is just retracing it. It's a lot quicker now. All you're doing is that, just so that when you come to engraving you can see exactly what's going on, and it's quite simple. You just do that, and you don't have to worry about your hand rubbing any of the image off, so you can pretty much lean on your image there. That's not an issue. And then that should start coming up nice and bright, especially for when it comes to engraving. We need to know exactly where the lines are going to be, and what lines are depicting what on the drawing itself. Okay, so when it comes to shading, that is quite important for in shading, because trying to incorporate those different techniques in shading, you need to make sure that your lines are quite clear and you know exactly what you're going to be doing. So as you're tracing the image, just build up a picture in your head of what you picture this image is going to look like when it's done. Sometimes it's difficult to do that, especially when you first start out engraving, but you'll soon get the hang of it, and it'll just come. As soon as you look at an image, it'll literally click within a few seconds. As you can see on the camera there, it's starting to show up quite nicely, just the pencil, which is great, and this is exactly what we need. So around the borders and stuff, we don't have to be too precise, but what I'll say is make sure when you go over the areas such as the face and the eyes and the lips, those areas with high detail that can really make or break an image, you want to really make sure that your pencil is nice and sharp and you focus on getting those lines correct. Otherwise you'll lose your entire image just because of, you know, those small simple little mistakes. So particular attention to the facial area and things like the hands, things that really define the human body. So once I've done this, I'll carry on doing this, and then we will start engraving it, and we'll show you exactly what burrs we're going to be using, and what sort of things and textures to look out for, and then get this started. Alrighty guys, now we are ready to engrave. Now that we've traced our image onto our material, there's a few questions that need to be answered before we start engraving. So number one, what size burr do you need to be using? So it depends on the image and how much detail there is. I generally stick around the 105 and the 106 or the 9905. Those numbers are denoted on the Dremel accessory guide. So if you can download that from Google, Just Google it and it'll give you a picture guide of all the types of accessories available to the Dremel tools. And the ones I'll be using are the cutting burrs. Those are good little burrs to start off with. The 105 is nice and small. It's a ballpoint burr, and that's good for high detailed areas. The 106 is a lot larger, it's a bit more aggressive, and you can use that on areas that needs coloring in or material removed. Next question is, what speed should you use on your Dremel? So I generally set around the 20 to 25,000 RPM mark, especially on materials such as aluminium. They are soft. For harder materials such as steels and things, then you increase that speed, but you need to use lubricant to cool your burr down. Otherwise, you're just going to carry on burning your burrs out, and it's not really going to be fun projects. The next one that will really help you out with your project is some form of cutting lube. Okay, generally this is like a waxy material, so while the burr is actually spinning, you've got your Dremel running, you just dip it in the wax, give it a nice coating, and then away you go. So what that does is just it keeps the burr lubricated, and it cuts really well, and you'll see the difference in line textures and the finishing of the lines with a lubricant. It is definitely one of the great things to use with your Dremel engravings. Another question is the distance that this burr needs to be sticking out for the end of your chuck. So this is down to personal preference. When you hold your flex shaft, hold it like a pen, and then when you start engraving, here's another top tip: always start on areas that are a lot of straight lines, or your borders. We always start at the borders like a tattoo. You start all the outlines first, and then you start doing all your high detailed areas. That'll ease you into the engraving, build your confidence, and it'll show you how the burr is reacting to your material. And then when you are engraving those lines, it'll give you a good indication if you're in a nice comfortable position with that distance of burr. So the longer it's out, the more reach you've got, but you are reaching, and then you will put strain on your hand. So the closer it goes into the chuck, more control you have for high detailed areas. So that's what you want to be concentrating on. So the further out it is, it helps you with coloring in. The closer it is in, it helps you with high detailed areas. So that's my personal preference, but that helps a lot, especially with something like this, especially a rotary burr. It's spinning, so you dealing with those centrifugal forces. So we don't want to get too technical, but that does really help you. So hopefully that has helped you. Let's get cracking and let's get this portrait done. There you have it, guys. It's all completed. Look at that. I'll do some B-roll of the finished piece. Hopefully that's helped you understand the start all the way through to the finish. I kind of skipped the time lapses and got straight to the end just so that you can see that finished piece. Like I said, I'll do some B-roll so you can see the differences in texture and the differences in shading and bits and pieces that I've chucked in there. Hopefully this has helped you. If you liked the video, smash that like button, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing and share the video with your friends. This is what I do, this is what on the channel. I like to teach everybody how to pick up a Dremel, be creative, and just have a good time. So I'll see you guys in the next one.